I know you're gonna dig this.
Hi, I'm David Webb, President and CEO of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center, on location in Columbus, Ohio, with another gem of a superstar. Let everybody know your name and who you are in the music industry.
Well, my name is Chris Powell. I'm a professional musician and saxophone player and producer. Some of the artists I've worked with over the years include Rick James. I've recorded with Stevie Wonder, songs with Shaka Khan, Temptations. I was an artist on Motown with a group called Cocoa Pop. I produced a group called Teen Dream, which was the first, I'll say first black teenage girl group of the 80s. I worked with Destiny's Child, Paula Abdul, Troop, and a lot of other artists over the years. And now, let me finish this. And now I have a nonprofit program for talented kids called Stars Worldwide. And our artists have appeared on all the major television shows, including American Idol, Ellen DeGeneres, The Voice, and America's Got Talent, of course, Apollo.
Okay, let's go back. Can we go back a little bit? Now, you're a native Columbus, Ohio, right?
Yes.
And what high school did you go to?
I went to Marion Franklin.
Marion Franklin. So let's go back up. Let's back up a little bit, okay? Let's go all the way back in kindergarten, okay?
Okay.
Let's work our way up to your success, okay? So in kindergarten, what school was you in from there? And let's work our way like that.
Oh, I'm a service brat, so kindergarten I was in Alaska.
Okay.
And I was actually we had kazoos, and so I was the leader of the band in kindergarten in Alaska.
Okay. So what made you get into playing an instrument? What was that important in doing the kindergarten, elementary, all that stuff? What made you decide on picking up an instrument?
Well, actually, there was a guy here in Columbus, Ohio, called Willie Bates. Him and his wife had a band group, and his family was friends of my family. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to go to his house probably about 5 years old, and even before kindergarten. And I heard saxophone playing this music. Da 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 da. I still remember it, right? And that's when I fell in love with the saxophone, because he was playing the saxophone. Mm-hmm. So So I must have been 4 or 5 years old, and then we moved to Alaska, and that's when I started playing the kazoo like a saxophone, shaped in the foot. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so that resonated all the way through my life.
Okay, so let's go from Alaska and let's fast forward. How'd you get to Columbus, Ohio?
Oh, my father got stationed here, and I didn't
what
want to come.
branch?
I did not. He was in the Air Force. I did not want to come to Columbus, Ohio. We went from Alaska to Texas, and Texas got horned toads, got road runners and all that. What are we gonna do in Ohio? Oh, they got a Great Lake. Okay, so that was it. I couldn't, so we moved here, and my father was in the service. We were at Lockbourne Air Force Base, but we lived in an area called Southfield.
Okay.
And Southfield is just a very unique area in Columbus. There was a lot of service people, mm-hmm. middle class people, mm-hmm. People that worked at the post office, doctors. Mm-hmm. It was a whole area of the south end of town. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where the whole musical thing started. I mean, I always wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a mouseketeer, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to be, I'm like, Mom, how can I get on Disney? I want to be a mouseketeer, and she just kind of laughed at me. It wasn't too many blacks on there at that time.
Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward. So you're really big. Was you in elementary school when was you in here in Columbus, Ohio, in elementary?
Yeah.
And what was that elementary school?
Elementary school, I went to several: Main Street, Clarefield, and
so you were traveling.
That's it. Yes, we moved. My dad was buying a house, and so we started singing groups in the 5th and 6th grade. So that's when we started singing and stuff.
Okay, so we're in high school.
Mm-hmm.
what was your first band you started playing with?
Well, my band was actually, we got to go to middle school. So
Okay.
the band that we had a group, created a group called the Soul Superbs. And from band people in our band, because I played in the school band.
Right.
And at that time in Columbus, every school, every middle school and every high school had a hot band. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And you did a story a couple of weeks ago about Michael Beard. So
Yes.
Michael Beard and then went to East High School. So
Right.
they had the band, started off as Associated Press, then became Blind Justice. And then on the west side of town, you had the Suspicious Can Openers.
Okay.
And then on the north side, you had the Dominations. So we were all high school band
Rivals, like
all the way
Ohio
rivals.
State, Michigan kind of
Oh
rival.
man,
right?
we would. If you remember the not the five stair sets, but the five heartbeats.
Yes.
When they would go stand in front of people, we would go around. If a band was playing at a club, and this was in middle school and high school,
Right.
we were all playing clubs. You know
Right,
what I'm
right.
saying? So if a band was there during our break, we would go in front of their band and we just stand in front of them with our arms crossed. That's what y'all want to do.
Is that intimidation?
That intimidation and also learning, because you learn what not to do, what worked, and you would steal what worked.
Right, right.
You know, so the Dominations had the serious horn section. The Blind Justice had everything, but my group, which was the Soul Superbs, we backed up all the big artists coming to town. So we backed up like the Delphonics, the Main Ingredient, Camelot, the dancers, and then we also toured with what's his name, Rufus Thomas. So we were out there on the road doing the Funky Chicken. So we realized as we backed up these groups.
And what age was you then when you got over
15, 16.
Wow.
15, 16, yeah. And the thing is that we realized that the singers got all the girls. So we ain't gonna back up the singers no more. We're gonna start singing. So that kind of separated us. Not that the other groups may even sang better, but we put our own record out at 16 and 17, and that kind of separated us from all the younger groups. Because at the time when we were coming up in high school, you had, you know, what's the name of the group? The Ohio Players. You had in Columbus, you had the group the Four Mints. That they had a singing group. They had a record. It was a million seller. We talked about Bill Moss earlier. It was a singing group. They were, and then Bill Moss had a song called "Sock It to Me, Soul Brother." But even the House Guests, and I think House Guests had Bootsy in it. But there was another group here that was our how do I want to say it? That we patterned ourselves was a group called the Buckeye Politicians, and the Buckeye Politicians, they were phenomenal. So they would have. At a club here, it used to be called Larry's Up and Down. You would have a battle of the bands. You might have Ohio Players against J.C. Davis, or J.C. Davis against the House Guests. And I'm pretty sure Bootsy was part of the House Guests. But the group I was talking about began as the Soul Partners, then became the Buckeye Politicians. We would play in the clubs and open up for them, but we would sneak out of school and we would play at clubs at night and get up and go to high school the next morning. But the Buckeye Politicians were so good. T.C. Jason was one of the founding members of the SOS, came out of the Buckeye Politicians.
Oh.
So I'm not saying he's from Columbus, but they were local here. They was going to Europe and all kinds of stuff. So those were like the people that we wanted to pattern ourselves after.
Great. Okay, so we're from 8th and 7th grade. Now you moved to high school.
Right.
Are you still with the same band?
Yes, I'm with the same band, but our people morphed around us. For example, let's say we put our record out. We were called the Soul Superbs. We put our record out.
What label was that?
That was our own. We didn't know nothing about no labels.
Okay.
We were just putting our records out. You know.
So you're selling out of the
We were
car.
selling it out the cars. They're playing it on the radio.
Okay, and what radio station at the time?
That was WVKO.
WVKO.
Yeah, so
that's
I mean,
when it was FM or AM?
AM.
AM, okay.
So we're playing on several stations.
Okay.
We're playing in Pittsburgh, and we're actually touring.
Okay.
So the story is that Motown wanted to give us a deal, but our manager wanted them to give him a car. Wanted to give him a Cadillac and some other stuff.
And what was your manager's name at that time, you remember?
Kenny Kills.
Kenny Kills, is he still around?
I don't know.
Okay.
The last I knew, he was in Oakland, but he was a gambler. We'd be on stage playing. He'd be back there. We might not make the money. He'd be back there
gambling.
He may make the money to be able to pay us because the club owner couldn't play us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, we toured everywhere from Bluefield, West Virginia, down to, I mean, we did everything. Omaha, Nebraska, but we toured with a lot of, like I said, Rufus Thomas was the biggest thing as a high school person. But our group here was from Marion Franklin. So like I said, you had Blind Justice that went to East. And what ended up happening was Frank Thompson, who you talked about, who went to the bar. First off, Michael Beard.
Right.
Michael Beard went to the Barcades. That was a big time thing for us, you know what I'm saying? Columbus, a young boy taking off, you know what I'm saying? So
he was just fresh out of high school, not
fresh
even
out of high school.
17, 18 years old.
That's
gone.
It. He was gone. And so we were all proud of that. And again, we just kept battling. In the meantime, we kind of had a little bit more edge because we were going on the road.
Okay.
So Frank Thompson, the trombone player, leaves Blind Justice to become part of our group.
Okay.
By this time, we're hitting like San Diego, we're hitting Salt Lake City. You know,
we're in high school now, right?
Yeah, we're high school and coming out of high school.
Okay.
Because high school, like I said, we were backing up all the groups in town, and it would be like not so much in town, the big groups when they came.
So how did they know about you? And I want to lead into your professional career. How did they know about you?
I think when people like Main Ingredient would probably call and say, hey, you know.
Well, how'd you get to the Main Ingredients? No, how'd y'all?
I'm assuming they got it from the radio station or from the concert promoter. Probably from the concert promoter. It was a guy called Bob Crockett. He did a lot of the stuff, but we backed up like the Johnson, Hawkins, Tatum, and Durr. All these local groups that had records out.
Okay.
We were there. We would do mini tours and back them up. So, and that's why we said we got to sing because this ain't working. You know, we ain't getting the ladies. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So I'm sure that's how they found out about us. They found out about us from either the radio station or from the concert promoter who was putting on the show.
Okay. So now, say we're at 12th grade. You're just coming out of high school.
Right.
You're doing fine and well. Now your professional career came about.
Right. Well, that's when I guess we snatched Frank Thompson.
Okay.
And again, we had the record out, so we were touring.
So we got Frank Thompson.
You got, this was the making of what ends up becoming Nytro. So we hit the road. We hit a lot of places. We come back to Columbus, and Frank's girlfriend was having a baby.
Okay.
Frank's girlfriend was having a baby, and that particular day that she was having a baby, he says, I can't go. And we're like devastated because, you know, we got this horn section. We've been playing songs like Chicago. We got trombones and two saxophone players and trumpet players.
That's pretty much like a cover band, right? And some
cover
originals.
band, and we were playing originals. So we weren't just doing covers. We were doing original stuff.
Sure.
So, and we had a heck of a show. So what ended up happening was, unbeknownst to us, our manager had talked to a guy named Morrissey Payne, now known as L.A. Sky.
Okay.
L.A. Sky and Frank Thompson had been in Blind Justice together. So Frank ends up staying in town. Unbeknownst to us, our manager had talked to L.A. and L.A. becomes part of Nytro. We still the Soul Superbs at that time. We leave Columbus. Now we got Morrissey, and the good thing about Morrissey, because Morrissey could sing, and he was a very soulful trumpet player. So now we had two trumpets and a saxophone.
Okay, so right on your computer, if you could go there and you turn it real quickly on your computer, and I think tell us about this album. This is your first album?
This was our first album. The group's Soul Superbs. I'm gonna go through a little bit of that real quick.
Please.
We went to L.A.
Okay.
When we hit L.A., it was our group. We changed our name to Ohio Superbs.
Okay.
Okay.
Because everybody was Ohio
Lakeside. Yeah, everything
Ohio
was
players.
Ohio players. Ohio Lakeside and Revelation Funk. Excuse me. We were the hot acts in L.A. We were all from Ohio. Revelation Funk had James Ingram. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ohio Lakeside.
Out of Akron.
Out of Akron, right.
Canton area. Okay.
And there was another group called California Malibu. So those were the groups that was hitting L.A.
Okay.
You know, and so that's what they talked about in L.A. was our groups. Besides the big groups they talked about, but we were the young upcomers. And Next thing you know is Mike. We work with a lot of producers. Sorry about that, Mike. We work with a lot of producers, and one of the producers was a guy named Trevor Lawrence, who became my saxophone teacher. And Trevor had worked with, he's on all those songs by the Rolling Stones. He played saxophone on some of them solos from Marvin Gaye. And at the time, he was working with horn arrangements for Stevie Wonder. So he's like, y'all want to meet Stevie? And we're like, Stevie? You know, so he takes us to the studio. We go hang out with Stevie, and Stevie goes, starts showing us
a horn section.
He starts showing us his Dream Machine, the keyboard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he starts showing us vocal acrobatics and warm ups, and he starts showing us all this stuff. He said, "Hey man, y'all want to play on my song?"
Wow.
Yo, and next thing you know, we're on doom 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 doom. I wish.
Wow.
And at that time, we were also working with Leon Silvers, the Silvers' father. And he taught us a lot more about harmonies. So we changed our name to Ohio Silver.
Okay.
So if you look at the credits on Stevie Wonder's album, you see special thanks to Ohio Silver. So we had changed our name to Ohio Silver. And then we ended up getting signed by Norman Whitfield.
Great. And what label was that when you got signed with Norman? Was this his own personal label or just?
It was Whitfield Records. Norman had wrote all those songs, Heard It Through the Grapevine, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, I Wish It Would Rain. At that time, he was working on Car Wash. Okay, but he's a legend. You know, he wrote so many hit records.
Okay.
And so he signed us. We were a very elite group. A lot of people. We practiced like 12 hours a day, 2 days a week, 8 hours a day, 4 days a week. So we were extremely tight. So what ended up happening was Norman signed us. He created his own label. He had Royce,
right,
which was doing Car Wash at the time. He had Stargard, which ended up doing Which Way Was Up. He had Junior Walker, Willie Hutch, and that was his label. He called it Whitfield Records. It was distributed by Warner Brothers.
Right.
So we're playing, and Mama Tappy. We're playing on all of those records. My horn section, Nytro, we end up playing on stuff for Carl Carlton. Don't push it, don't force it for what's his name? Leon Haywood. Yeah, we're doing. So Leon is producing Carl Carlton, so we're doing all of those songs. So we were playing on a lot of people's records. So what ended up happening was we did 2 albums with Whitfield, and we were just so. We were into our own world. Nitro was the 8 elements of the atom. You know, we had our own.
I see that right there.
That? You see our own city, Nitropolis. We were in our home. We were in a complete.
So let me get you this. So you had that Earth, Wind, and Fire vibe going. I see at that time, everything was the nucleus and the funk and that. Is that what I'm seeing on the album?
Yeah, you're seeing that. Yeah, we were just in a different world. It was like Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know, it was just a very eclectic and really. We were in our own world.
Right,
you know,
right.
We were
the
elements of the nitrogen album.
Right. So tell me a little bit of that album and your songs on there. Just tell me a little bit about it.
Okay. Well, what ends up happening is we end up every record almost that we play of with everybody else becomes a hit. And but every time we put a record out, Norman asked us, say, well, y'all want to do a soundtrack? We're like, I don't know if we want to do a soundtrack because the soundtrack takes forever to get done. But in retrospect, the soundtrack was the way you break an artist. You know, that was one of the ways because he broke Stargard with Which Way Is Up. Royce, he broke with Car Wash. You know, so what ends up happening is we just never did it. And but he had us play on all the hit records. We were, you know, he would, with Royce, for example, he'd sit there and say, well, whoever comes up with the horn part, I'm going to give them extra $150 a piece. Wow. And what we would do is, of course, we'd come up with the horn part.
What year was that? What year was that happening at?
Probably 78, 77, 78, 79, 80.
That's when horns was prevalent.
Oh yeah,
in the business.
Oh yeah,
okay.
And you had our horn section, and then you had Earth, Wind, and Fire horn section, which was Sea Wind. You had average white band, you know. So you
and
had
the Brecker
horns
Brothers,
on everything.
the Brecker Brothers, everybody. Yeah.
Brecker Brothers, yeah, that was the average white band.
Yeah.
So so you had horns all over the place. So what ended up happening is that Danny, if you remember Rick James' record, say "Blow, Danny, Blow."
Yeah.
Danny had played with Stargard.
Is Danny from?
No, Danny. I think Danny's from Danny's from Los Angeles because he went to school with Patrice Rush, and all of them came out that same high school.
Okay.
You know, and but he was part of the band with Rick James.
Okay.
And so they were looking for a horn section, and he's like, I know some people, you know, and he called us up. You know, and he just said, "Hey, yo, y'all," because he knew we were tight. Our horn section, we could sing, we could dance, and we could play all at the same time. Nytro give you a show,
Okay.
So he knew that. I got the right horn section, and he brought us out to L.A. Of course, we knew what we were supposed to do. And the funny thing about this, we used to rehearse in the same place that Rick rehearsed at SIR Studios. We had the small studio, but we rehearsed hours. They had the huge studio, and we kind of used to look at Rick like, you know, he's all right, you know, because I can remember when he brought You and I, he brought the song into to Norman Whitfield and played at Norman's studio, and he got something hot, you know, he got something. We're like, okay, yeah, he all right, you know what I'm saying? So we didn't really look at him as all of that, even though he was having huge records.
Right.
So it was ironic that when Danny, well, what had happened even earlier is our guitar player is a guy named Pepper Reed. Pepper was phenomenal. I mean, when I say phenomenal,
Is he still around? Pepper's
no, he
around?
passed.
Okay.
He passed. But Pepper played on a lot of those hit records for Leon Silvers. So I mean, he's like on stuff with Shalimar.
Okay.
That's him on second time. Is that second time? Make this a night to remember.
Yeah.
But he's also you can tell his guitar playing. He's on that. He's on that one too. But and the beat goes on.
Just like my
love.
everlasting.
You know how it breaks into that guitar
Yeah.
part? That's guitar. That's the kind of stuff. So when he played on guitar, he made the song. He signature guitar parts.
To me, he made the guitar a voice.
Voice, absolutely.
Okay.
And so he left our group to go with Leon. So when it came time to
We
go
talking
with
about
Rick,
Leon Silvers.
Leon Silvers, because Leon was doing Shalimar, he was doing all those
producing
hit
all them,
records,
okay,
all
okay.
of those records. So
Okay.
but he created a group called Dynasty.
Okay.
So Pepper ended up being a part of Dynasty.
Okay.
Okay. But he's on all those records.
Okay.
So what ends up happening is that we said, well, we're going to go with Rick. They asked us to go with Rick, and everything kind of took off. I mean, Rick's thing went from, not that he wasn't big, he was big, but now we're with him and all of a sudden Super Freak and
Right.
Give It To Me Baby.
Right.
He just goes into another level.
Right.
And our horn section, because if you look at Rick before then, and you see our horn section, you see us moving and bopping, you see the girls over there bopping, you see it's the whole thing becomes even more so.
So let's go back for a minute. Let's go. So Rick heard you. Let me get this.
Because of Danny. Danny told him about us and he flew us out there.
Okay. All right. That's what I want to make sure. And what year was that?
That's going to be 81. 81.
81.
Right.
That's when Mary Jane, everything was popping right then.
Right. Well, Mary Jane happened before that.
Okay.
What ends up happening is this was Give It To Me Baby.
Give It To Me Baby.
So we start rehearsing for Give It To Me Baby. And what ends up happening is one of the first things that Rick asked us is like, yo. One of the first things that Rick asked us is, if I asked y'all to get butt naked, would y'all get butt naked? That's one of the first questions he asked me, or asked the whole horn section.
Right.
And we're like kind of surprised, but we ain't surprised, you know. Of course, because we from Ohio, we done
Right.
almost been crazy, butt naked anyway.
Right.
Okay, so that was one of the first things he asked us.
Right.
And so,
Because Rick was freaky like that.
yeah,
anyway.
he was. I mean, we're talking about the first question, and our first day of rehearsal, the first day we meet Rick, we get there probably. He calls rehearsal we're supposed to be there like 11 or 12 in the morning. We rehearse. He's going to be there at 4 o'clock. He don't show up. Now all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock. He don't show up. 1 o'clock in the morning. By this time, we done went through the show a whole bunch of times.
Right.
He probably showed up about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when we meet him. Of course, he's doing everything that you could think of with Rick. He's bringing all the toys, all the gifts,
bells and whistles,
Mary Jane, everything's in there. And he's and
so at that time, can we just say drugs was big?
Oh, it's big, and we got a hit song with Mary Jane.
Yeah,
so I'm just saying that. So, but what I'm saying is, so that's our first really meeting him for that project. You know what I'm saying? Right. So he asked us, will you do, if I ask you to get butt naked, will y'all do it? We're like, yeah, okay, whatever. He said, okay, let me hear y'all play. So we get to play, and the next thing you know, we're touring with Rick.
Wow. Okay, so tell us a little about the tours. I know it was crazy. Wow. Did you get paid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Never had a problem getting paid. Always paid on time. In fact, he was very how I want to say it. He had people that was teaching us about money market. Per diem was good. I mean, we were putting money in money market. We were doing stuff like that.
See, people always say the negative about Rick. Let's do some highlights of Rick that you's like, wow, and then there's some things, because people always say the negative, but Rick seemed like he was a good businessman.
Yeah, he was a good businessman. I mean, he's one of the first people. I think he owned, if I remember right, he owned his own merchandising. So he made millions of dollars on merchandising when other people weren't doing that. You know what I'm saying? Let's say black entertainers weren't doing that.
Right.
And I won't even consider him black from that standpoint, because he was bigger than black. Bigger than R&B. It was much bigger than. But for him to make merchandising, that kind of merchandising dollars, and own his own merchandising, that was phenomenal. A lot of people don't know that.
Okay, so where were you with Rick? He said you get butt naked. Okay.
After that, he never asked us that.
So I think he was just pulling your leg, right?
No, I don't know. He probably was wanting to see if we would really do that.
Okay.
And he was probably pulling our leg, but he probably wanted to see if we would say yeah.
Okay, so you're with Rick. You're playing. How many albums did the Nytro horn section play with?
We actually never played on any horns on none of his records, except for the record Slow Jam was Chaka Khan. We did that. Now, L.A. ended up staying with Rick.
Okay.
But I ended up, what had happened was Rick offered me a record deal with my own self, okay? And a guy in Columbus, this is going back to Blind Justice.
Okay.
The bass player from Blind Justice was a singer, and we had hooked him up with Norman Whitfield. I'll go back a little bit.
Please.
And so he became one of the lead singers with Undisputed Truth, and then with Dream Machine.
Okay.
So, the original plan was Nytro was supposed to get back together. We were supposed to be the horn section with Rick, and then we were supposed to come back together and put our own group back together. We weren't supposed to be Rick forever. We were just supposed to do this and take the move and move up to the next step.
So Rick was gonna get you on with because I know he was with Gordy Records, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. But what happened is that I kept doing demos.
Okay.
I kept doing demos, and Melvin kept doing demos.
Now, who's Melvin?
Melvin Stewart is the young man I was telling you about that ended up playing with Undisputed Truth.
Okay, all right.
So we put our demo together, and I gave my demo to a friend of mine, and he gave it to Henry Allen and Cotillion.
Okay.
Cotillion wanted to do a deal.
Now, Cotillion's part of the Warner Brothers spinoff of the African Americans.
Atlantic, I think,
Atlantic,
so they were wanting to meet me and offer a deal.
Okay.
Rick heard about it and went completely bonkers.
Really? Like, what do you mean?
You went, what you mean? You I said, Rick, I didn't ask you to listen to my music before. You ain't want to listen to it.
Right. Okay.
What's this about you meeting with Henry Allen? I said, look, I got a meeting here. He was on his way to produce Eddie Murphy.
Oh yeah, right.
And we were supposed to be going to Atlanta. Atlanta, because our next gig was in Atlanta. I'm like, man, I'm here I'm in New York, man. I'm ready to meet with Henry Allen. He hears about it, and he says, oh no, you ain't, MF, you ain't.
Yeah.
No, I want to hear this stuff first.
Yeah.
So Rick goes to Sausalito to work on Eddie Murphy. We go to Atlanta, and when we're getting ready, we don't see Rick for a few days because he's doing that. As we're getting ready to go on stage, before stage, the securities go, "Hey, Rick's looking for you, Chris. Have you talked to Rick? Rick's looking for you." I'm like, "No, I ain't seen Rick." Rick walks in. We're getting ready to go on stage. He's like, "Y'all ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready. Chris, this motherfucker ready." You know what I'm saying? He ready. Like, I feel a little strange because that's his band.
Right. Right.
That's his band. They've been with him forever. He come now. He's kind of singling me out. Yo, he's got his project. Blah 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 blah. Because I got to talk to you after this is over, after the show. So what he does, he offers me a deal, and he says, "Look, I'm gonna take you to Motown, but I ain't gonna let them sign you." He said, "How much did y'all?" He said, "Who's on the project?" I told him it's just me and Melvin. He said, "Because Melvin kind of sound like Rick, but he got phenomenal range, Right. And he says, "Well, how much did you pay? How much did it take for you to do the album?" I said, $17,000. He said, "Okay." So he flies me and Melvin to L.A. and he parades us around Motown. I mean, he's parading us about, "It's my new group, blah 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 blah." We get it. When
he told you that, you looked at him like, "What?" Like
I've been with Rick for about 5-6 months now, so I know he's serious. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So he takes us. We're walking around Motown, and he's like, "Yo, this is my new group, blah blah blah." I forget what we were calling ourselves at the time. And he says, "Look, I'm gonna give y'all $15,000 a piece, but I want y'all to wait until September when I finish this tour. Then I'm gonna work on your album." He said. So he asked Melvin. He said, "Melvin, how much did it take y'all to do this album?" Melvin said, $70,000. And I told him 17, right?
Right.
Melvin goes, 70,000. Rick didn't bat an eye. He said, "Well, I'm gonna give y'all 15 to stay. Just wait." You could tell it wasn't no $70,000 album, but he did. Rick was just okay. But he wanted 100% publishing.
Oh.
And that was the deal breaker.
Right.
That was the deal breaker. So what ends up happening is we're touring. We're still touring. Rick faints on stage. You remember there's a part where he falls out on stage.
Yeah.
He comes out the hospital and he calls me in for a meeting. He goes, "Yo, Chris, all right, I agree, 50% publishing." I'm like, "Shoot, we got a deal." So I call back to Columbus and talk to Melvin. Melvin then signed a single deal with EMI. So now Rick is pissed at me because he ready to move on this, and now we can't do the deal.
Oh, wow.
So so on and off, my relationship with him during that time was a little, because he was pumped up on it because Rick was looking for, he had the Mary Jane Girls, he had the Stone City Band. This was another way to branch off into things that he was doing.
Like what George Clinton was doing, had different shoot-offs.
Absolutely.
Let's go back up for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna kind of tie this in too.
It's okay.
So you did horn section with Rick.
Mm-hmm.
How did y'all get the name the Punk Funk Horns?
Well, that was already the name of the Punk Funk Horns. He had Punk Funk Horns before us. We just became the Punk Funk Horns.
Okay.
Because we were Nytro.
Okay.
So he always had the Stone City Band, the Punk Funk Horns, and the Mary Jane Girls.
Okay, so
and the Color Girls.
So when did you become a punk funk? What year did you become?
81.
81 to what for a punk?
I left in 83, 83, 84. And again, I had my own project.
Okay.
I had my own project. And then we started working with Tina Marie.
Okay.
We started working with Tina Marie.
So right after that, you left, you said 81, 83, so you
No,
left.
I left after that second tour. I left 80, 81, 82. I would say 83. That was
just so say 84. That's when you started reaching out.
I had my own demos already done.
Okay.
I had my own group. I had a group called Renegade that became Cocoa Pop, and I had a girls group that included Paula Abdul. I was a big Laker fan.
Okay, so let's back up for a second before we get there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Tina Marie comes in this particular time.
Okay,
you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
I go from Rick. And I got my own projects.
Okay.
Okay. Which was the girls from the Lakers, which was
Paula
Abdul, and there was a Laker girl group, and they were called Girls Time.
Okay.
This is ironic because later on I ended up working with Girls Time. Another was included Destiny's Child.
Okay.
So make a long story short, at this particular time, Rick's sister Penny takes my demo to Tina.
Okay.
Tina loves it, and she said, "Chris, we're gonna do this album together.
And Tina was still with Motown.
Tina was moving to CBS. She had moved to CBS, so
Okay.
she was looking to make her thing go on to CBS.
Okay.
So
Was Rick still producing with her, or she was?
she was on her own.
On her own.
She was on her own. She was, and like again, she was leaving Motown, and she was doing so. She slowly brought. I had a demo done. She liked it. She brought members from my group Cocoa Pop to California, and they all lived with her at her house.
Okay.
3 of the members that lived with her at her house.
What was in Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles, in the Valley, yeah.
She had a big home or like
Yeah,
a
she had a
apartment?
big house. She had a big house. At that time, I was having my son. My son was being born.
What was your son's name?
His name is Abdullah now, but his name was Brandon.
Brandon. What's his last name?
Powell.
Brandon Powell. Okay.
Yeah, but Abdullah Powell now. So in fact,
Big shout out to him.
well, big shout out to him and Elements. He runs Elements in Cincinnati, which is a nonprofit program for like a hip hop recreation center in Cincinnati.
Great.
So, but what ends up happening, ironically, Penny said, "Well, if he's cute, you should call him Brandon." So that's how he got his name, Brandon. His son did. His mother didn't. I don't like Brandon. I'm like, well, if he's cute, you know.
Yeah.
I did not know it was one of the most popular names at that time.
Right.
But anyway, she starts bringing the people out. We're working with her on her album that ended up being on Sony. Lover Girl. The original guitar player on it was our guitar player.
And what's his name?
His name is Keith Alexander.
Okay.
Keith Alexander.
Is he from Columbus?
He's from Columbus.
Okay.
Our whole group, Cocoa Pop, was from Columbus.
Okay.
So we had a drummer by the name of Timmy Howe, who was also the drummer with Heat Wave. He came out there with us. Rico Fillmore, who just passed. A lot of people know him from Rico in the latest news, but he was a heck of a singer.
Okay.
And Eric O'Neill. So that was our group.
Now let me ask you: is any of those guys? You said somebody might have passed.
Rico just passed last year, and Eric passed a few years ago. But Keith Alexander is still around playing.
Okay.
You know, so we signed to Motown, which was my childhood dream.
And
I gotta skip a little bit.
Okay.
I skipped a little bit. We worked with Tina.
Okay.
And then the deal that she offered me from the very beginning, what she said was going to happen, was the deal that she offered us.
So let's break that down. So
Okay.
people who in the business might not know the business. For the young people who are looking at this video,
Okay.
tell them about that.
Well, what ends up happening was she offered us the deal from the very beginning. We were going to split this because I had taken care of the whole project before we met her.
Right.
But when she moved them out to her house, we then started re-recording these songs at her house. Someone from the band had called me, said, Rick, you better watch. Said, Chris, you better watch. Somebody from Rick James's band said, Chris, you better watch your back. They trying to make some moves on you, right? So I'm old school. I said, I better make a copy of my own masters. So I actually copied the masters that she had at her house. I copied them in another place so I could do my own mixing on it. So unbeknownst to her. So what ends up happening is I got my own masters. She's got her masters. And what ends up happening is she offers me a deal, or offers us a deal. And the deal basically is 150 grand. But she wants 50 for production. She wants to give, now we're supposed to have been doing this project together. 10 is supposed to go to Rick's sister as a what do you call it?
Finder's fee.
Finder's fee. 10 is supposed to go to Rick's brother as the attorney.
Oh.
10 is supposed to go to the engineer, Bobby.
Oh wow.
So now you got 80,000 out of that 150, and then the group is supposed to split 10. There's 4 of us now. Wait a minute, this don't make no sense.
Right.
This is not what we talked about. So in the meantime, I told you I got my own masters,
Right.
and I'm just gonna start shopping my own stuff, right?
Right.
So one night, Benny Medina comes in the studio.
Yeah, good man, Benny Medina. Like people don't know who Benny Medina is. Part of Warner Brothers,
Motown,
Fresh Prince,
all
all
of that stuff.
Yeah.
So he comes in the studio, and at this time I'm working on Girls Time, which is the Laker girl group. You know,
Right.
working on. He calls. He stays there till about 4 o'clock in the morning with me, right? And I don't think anything about it. You know, I'm working on the project. So what happens is he calls me, or his office calls me at like 11 o'clock and said, Benny wants to meet with you at 1 o'clock. So when I get at Motown at 1 o'clock, he offers me a deal for both groups. My group, that at that time was called Renegade, and the group Girls Time. He offers me a deal on both of them. And I say, well, sure. You know what I'm saying? The deal ends up, he just wants to deal with my group Renegade. He's going to hold off on the girls. And what ends up happening is, I said, well, you gotta match this CBS deal, because the deal's coming from CBS. Tina wanted a side contract. The side contract would have gave her that 50 grand out of that thing. I did not show Benny the side contract. I just sold him the 150.
Right.
And they matched the deal and gave us a guaranteed 2-album deal.
Good.
And so
this is the Motown, right?
This was Motown.
Okay.
So we went to Motown. And
people don't know Motown moved from Detroit to Los Angeles.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was L.A. They were in L.A. Okay. The whole time I knew Motown, except when we were kids, they were in L.A.
Okay.
So so we ended up signing to Motown, which had been my childhood dream anyway. You know what I'm saying? So that was my first production. I was able to get production.
Can you show on the computer your group, the group that you work with? If you can pull that up on your computer, can you pull that up?
Pop?
Yeah. Could you pull that up for us so we can see if you have it available?
I just gotta go back in.
Okay,
here.
so we can get an idea and just maybe play a little bit of the music, just a tab of the music. We can see if you can.
Yeah, I can.
This is great.
That's me in the red hat.
Motown, right?
Motown. I know some vocals. This is a long intro.
Yeah. Let's get.
I got real strings too, man. 30 string players.
Okay. Now who's singing that?
That's Rico.
Rico. Okay. Who's Rico on there? Point him out.
Left, right there. That's Rico.
With the red hat on too, right?
No, this is Rico right here.
Okay.
That's me. That's Keith Alexander, the guitar player.
Okay.
And that's Eric.
Okay. All right. So let's go back here. So Rico is the gentleman in the black coat. Point to Rico so we know who Rico is.
Rico
with your hand.
right
with your hand.
Oh, right here. This is Rico.
Okay. Right there.
That's me to the left of him. It's Keith Alexander in the blue. And Eric O'Neill in the red.
All right. Wow, that's beautiful. Okay. So this group was popping.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it a little bit.
So yeah, we so what ends up happening is because I didn't take the deal with Rick, Rick's pissed off at me. So then I don't take the deal with Tina. Tina's pissed off at me. Because
you're a businessman. You're shopping for what you need.
Well,
you think people was trying to muscle you to?
Well, it's the game. It's the game. Now, in retrospect, I should, from a business standpoint, what I should have done was I should have went back to Tina and CBS and said, "Hey, look, let's work this out." I should have, because of Tina, we did a song with Tina called New Wave. If that record had came out, it'd have been something else, and on CBS. So in retrospect, I had ego problems because I'm coming from Rick. I'm got my own deal. You know what I'm saying? But from a business standpoint, I should have went back to Tina and CBS and worked it out so that that would have been a better business move. Okay, because I really didn't know the game. I knew how to record and produce, but that was my first production. I didn't know nothing about promotion. I didn't know nothing about labels. You got to be with this particular part of the label. There's certain things that
so you actually
know.
you got a deal, but you didn't get the distribution rights or
no. We got the deal, but what happens is, like, for example, signing to I forget what it's called, but like if you what's her name that discovered the Jacksons, not Diana, but the
I know
you know what I'm talking about. Susan the Pass.
Yes.
Acts that were signed to Susan the Pass's stuff, like the bars, groups that were on that label, that part of Motown, really took off.
Yes.
Okay. The other standpoint is that when you sign with a label, and especially back then, you get one shot. You get one shot. So we put out a single called Baby Sister, and Motown pushed it, but it didn't take.
Right.
Now this song, on the other hand, they didn't push, but it was #1 in places like Detroit. You know, and we were moving like thousands of records a week, but we couldn't get them behind that record at all because they had put time on the other. So a lot of times, you know, again, I didn't know the game. I didn't know I should have had money in my own pocket.
Right.
We should have took money out of our own budget to promote the record. I didn't know that.
Right.
Independent of Motown. Even if you're on Motown, as an artist, you better have your own money to promote your stuff.
So, okay, so right there, what was your next project that
From that standpoint, my group, Cocoa Pop and New Edition, we were doing lunchrooms in Los Angeles.
So we don't, but they say lunchrooms. Expound on that.
Okay, it was a promotion tour with high schools.
Okay.
K-Day, which is the #1 radio station at the time in LA, was doing promotional tours. So in exchange for them playing our record, and part of it, we were doing promotion tours. Doing at lunch, like Crenshaw High School,
okay,
we would play there during lunchroom, during lunchtime. And as we were doing that, I realized one day it hit me, you got the New Kids on the Block, you got the Boys, you got New Edition, ain't no black teenage girl groups. And I thought about it, I'm like, there ain't none. But I remember as a kid, every neighborhood had their version of Supremes. Just like, you know, they had these in the Marvelous, they were singing, but none of them was out. And I thought about there hadn't been none.
Right.
So I cut a demo on a girl here by the name of Terry Whitlow and put some girls behind her, and immediately Warner Brothers signed her. Immediately.
Now, Terry Whitlow, am I saying all right?
Terry Whitlow.
Is she from this area?
She's from Columbus as well.
Okay.
Every record deal I've gotten is from Columbus. Even though I lived in LA,
you went back.
I came back to Columbus, and I always was able to get a record deal on that.
Yes.
So Terry, phenomenal singer, had worked even before me. She had worked with the guy who really found Bobby Taylor, from Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers. Bobby Taylor is the real one that discovered, and he's from Columbus, he's the real one that discovered Jackson 5.
Right.
He had worked with Terry before I got a chance to work with Terry.
Okay.
So at 15, 16 years, I cut a demo on her. Warner Brothers signs them. We get her, Paula Abdul is actually doing our choreography for the video.
Okay.
You know, she's come back doing a favor for us. So what ends up happening, one of the girls couldn't keep up with the steps.
Right.
She couldn't keep up with the steps, so Benny's like, man, give me a girl who can dance.
Right.
You know, so they had just spent all this money on a photo shoot with this girl.
Right.
But she couldn't keep up with Paula's steps.
She had a nice look, but she couldn't dance.
Couldn't keep up with the steps.
Okay.
So what they did was we found another girl, and they weren't going to do another photo shoot, and they put that girl's head on the other girl's body.
Okay.
So you see this, because it was a great photo shoot.
Right.
So Paula couldn't do, at that time she couldn't do the video, so they brought in Otis Salid.
Now who's that?
Otis Salid at the time, phenomenal choreographer, was doing the choreography for Spike Lee's School Days.
Okay.
So he introduced me to Spike Lee. My lead singer from Cocoa Pop, Teen Dream, becomes one of the jigaboos in School Days. So Spike.
Oh, is the one with the? Was she the leader or just?
She wasn't the lead. She was just one of the jigaboos,
okay,
right?
Okay.
So what ends up happening, I get a chance to meet Spike. Spike said, "Well, you know, I'm looking for a song. I'm looking for a song called The Butt." And we're meeting in the gymnasium, right? And so I said, I got a song about a girl with a big booty, right? And her name was Poo Poo LaRue.
Okay.
And that's what I called her. In retrospect, I cut the song. He really wanted the song called The Butt.
Okay.
This was about a girl with a big butt.
Right.
So I ended up putting the song on a group called Chill Factor on Warner Brothers, and it probably ruined their career because it I feel sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It had elements of a hit, but it wasn't a hit record. And so it was a single, and I don't think they got a shot after that first single.
Right.
But when Teen Dream came out, that got me working with a group called Troop. And working with Troop, I used to pick them up from high school and work with them.
Now, Troop, out of Cleveland?
No, Troop is out of Altadena and Pasadena.
Pasadena, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, like I said, when that record came out, when Teen Dream's record came out, the video came out. It was.
Could you show us Team Dream? Can you pull that up so we can see a little bit of Team Dream?
Yeah,
so
and
people
there
know.
hadn't been. So what ends up happening is when Teen Dream takes off. I also work with, on this particular project, I work with Brown Mark from Prince.
Yeah.
They had just done, and Rick and Prince didn't really get along.
They were like rivals, big time.
No, they were definitely rivals. You know what I'm saying? So in this video, you'll see Michael DiLorenzo, Michael DiLorenzo had just finished the Beat It video.
Okay. Now, is this your group?
This is Teen Dream right here, right.
Now, who's that right?
Terry Whitlow.
Terry Whitlow's right there?
Right. Now what happens is, this isn't Michael singing, but he becomes a star on New York Undercover.
Yes, he does.
Okay, I'm going to move up a little bit so you can hear her voice.
Okay.
This is when you first hear it. He's only 15 or 16 singing like this.
Right. Yeah, okay. Yes.
So I forgot that they split the verses.
Okay.
But what ends up happening is Michael becomes a star on New York Undercover. I get a chance to work with Prince. Some things happen over a period of the second album, and we lose the deal with Warner Brothers.
Oh,
we lose the deal with Warner Brothers.
What was the reason, they say?
Well, I don't want to go into that too deep, but let's just say it wasn't Warner Brothers' fault. It was more on our fault. Okay. So what ends up happening is Slack Johnson leaves Capitol Records. He loves the stuff. He says, "Come on down here and let me take this album. Let me take your new." I replaced the lead singer.
Okay.
I replaced the lead singer, and with another young girl by the name of Tia Stewart, who ends up being Melvin Stewart, who I talked about with Undisputed Truth, his daughter.
Okay.
So she becomes my second lead singer with Teen Dream. We take a deal on Malaco. Malaco doesn't really understand.
Is that what we talking Malaco now? Let me hold the first name Malaco.
Okay.
Malaco, the Mississippi Malaco
Absolutely.
Records. Okay, because they with the Williams brothers, all that Malaco Records, in Jackson, Mississippi. Okay,
Absolutely.
Just want to double check.
I know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Slack Johnson leaves Capitol Records and comes to become the vice president of Malaco.
Okay.
So he's like, "Oh, Chris, we can do this." I'm like, "Hey, you kind of gospel."
Yeah, because that's what everybody knows. That's why I want to double check.
Yeah,
Malaco Records,
can
the
you
Williams
do this?
brothers, the Mississippi Mass, all those guys. But see, I think what they wanted to do is branch out, because everybody says Malaco, we think gospel, like Light Records, all that kind of stuff.
But Malaco, it was even deeper about Malaco. Malaco made more money. You know how they used to have, if you used to look at late night television, they say, the hits of the so-and-so, so forth. You can get all these hits.
Yeah.
They packaged a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
They packaged it. And
they was like a Rhino Records. They're like a Rhino Records, what they're doing. Okay.
They had a machine that just cut checks.
Oh,
cut checks. They were making so much money. So as a gospel, they were probably doing that, but they were making money on that other stuff.
Right.
Okay. They didn't know what to do with Teen Dream.
Okay.
They didn't know what to do. And what happened was, I have a young man by the name of Alonzo Jackson worked with me on that project. He's from Oakland. He came in, and what happens, we work with Pablo Davis. A lot of people don't know Pablo.
That's a name of bias in the past.
Pablo had worked with, he managed Midnight Star, and he managed The Deal. Okay? I had met with L.A. Reid and Babyface before I came back here. And I told them my situation, and they said, you think that's a good marriage? And they said, you should go back there. So I started working with Pablo, and we took the deal with Malaco. they couldn't take the project, couldn't do it. But they introduced me to Alonzo Jackson. Alonzo came and helped me do the project. And several months later, after the record didn't go, he called me, said, Chris, man, these people in Houston really like what you did on Teen Dream. Can you come down here and help me work on this project with Teen Dream? I mean, with a group called Girls Time.
Okay.
So I fly down to Houston, and I work with Girls Time. Remember, my other group had been called Girls Time, and now I'm working with a group in Houston called Girls Time, and it ends up being Destiny's Child. But this is before Destiny's Child. I'm in the studio working with these phenomenal girls, 11 and 12 years old. There's like 4 or 5 of them, you know, Beyonce, Kelly, Latavia. There's a, you know, and these girls is working. I mean, they choreography, they working. They come in the studio with sleeping bags. You know, when I talk about, you know, I'm not going to, they never talk about the studios that we worked in or the building and other things. I won't go into that.
Well, talk. We want to know. We want to listen to the story.
Well, in retrospect, man, it was a big warehouse. And like I said, they came in with sleeping bags. They were committed. They were committed. But for example, there was a microwave, right? And there was roaches running around this microwave, right? And you know, you go get some fast food, and even though your fast food even though your fast food was wrapped up, when you put the microwave on, it heated, but the roaches, it didn't kill the roaches. That's why I know, you know, they say, well,
roaches have the nuclear, they can get nuclear.
So, but anyway, that's an off color story. But these girls would come in the studio, and if it was 1 o'clock in the morning, if I woke Beyonce up to sing a part, she would get up, she would sing her part, go back to bed. I might wake up Kelly, she'd get up and sing her part, she'd go back to bed. They were that committed. They were, and that's a hard, you know, that's a hard little, what I want to say, that's a hard little, you don't see that commitment with young artists. You don't see that commitment with older artists. But to see that in some 11 and 12 year old
hunger, they had that hunger, man, like the eye of the tiger.
They wanted it. You know, and there was another girl, I can't remember her name, that it was like she was kind of like the co-lead vocalist, but her voice was more proper, you know, the you know, the sings in the
choir,
the pageants, stuff like that. But Beyonce's thing just came through, and people, even now, I see a lot of people hate. But she, you know, in every group, somebody kind of rises to that occasion, and she rose to that occasion. Not taking anything from any of the other ones, but in retrospect, she stepped up. She was the one. It wasn't from my perspective, it wasn't like, I'm sure my father was there very on top of things, but it wasn't like he was pushing us to put her on in vocals.
And
it wasn't like that.
So that's the misconception of people thinking that Dad was the manager, they just pushed the daughter out.
No, I'm not going to say I wasn't there afterwards. After 15 and them, I wasn't around them like that. But at that time, it was whoever could sing the part right, whoever could give us the part. Because even on the song I had her sing, we changed the song we did as Teen Dream, because the song one of the songs I did with them was a song that had originally been on Teen Dream. Okay, so the girl who sang that part in Teen Dream could hit that high note. We flipped those notes for them to sing it, to do it. And it was a better version. But the point is that whoever sang those parts, so it wasn't like it's got to be Beyonce singing it. No, it was about who's going to sing the part the best. So again, I can't say after they, you know, because at 15 or 16, the funny thing is, I didn't even know that Girls Time had turned to Destiny's Child. What ends up happening is in Columbus, I was working with an artist by the name of Kaylin, who's a gospel person here, and we had done an R&B project on her. So they were playing at a club here called Valley Dale, I did not know Destiny's Child was the same girls.
Right.
So as we do our sound check, and we're walking across stage, I'm like, Matthew? See, yo, Chris, it's the girls. I'm like, oh, heck no, you know, I hadn't seen them in several years. Now they're 15 and 16. They women, young women. And people were looking at them like they're women. In fact, I a couple people in the audience during the show. I'm like, yo, man, them girls are 16. Stop that.
Right.
You know, but the point is that I didn't even know it was them.
Wow.
You know. And so in the meantime, I work with another artist, and I've got to give him a shout out. My name is Rashad.
Okay.
And Rashad, he was 15. We signed him to RCA, and we did a song with him and Little Kim. Little Kim was the featured artist. She was part of Junior Mafia at that time. So we signed him to RCA. And Rashad has become a heck of a producer. He's worked with a lot of people from Pharrell to.
He's from Columbus, Ohio.
He's from Columbus, and I signed him to RCA.
See,
yeah, I ran into him at 11
That's what I love about you. How you went right back home to Columbus.
Yeah, I've always been able
and
to
grab
do
your
that.
Columbus people. And see, a lot of people don't know. You hear about Dayton, Cincinnati, Akron, Cleveland, Toledo, but you never hear about the happenings in Columbus with your artists.
Right. Well, what ends up happening is, you know, there's a lot of people say there's a curse on Columbus, and it may be. I don't know, but I don't really go from that standpoint. But the situation with Rashad signed to RCA. The record never came out because they signed what's the guy that was in the commercial, the Coca-Cola. It was either Coca-Cola or
the Coca-Cola would play the drums and also
no. He's an actor now. This guy he was in either the Coca-Cola commercial or as a Pepsi commercial. He's a big star. Tyrese. They signed him and put Rashad on hold, so the song never came out that we did. Now, what ends up happening is he then signs to Mace, and then he signs with Nelly, and he finally puts out a song called Sweet Misery. But he has a company called Elevator Music, and he's kicking butt. I'm a phenomenal producer.
Good. So let's move forward. You got a great story. So let's fast forward up to date. What are you doing now?
Now I have a nonprofit for talented kids because I work with a lot of kids over the years. So I ended up creating a nonprofit program, which we were in this place now, and it's based upon Motown. Basically, it started off with kids running their own record company. So we took 3 bedrooms, and what you ended up doing was 3 bedrooms. You couldn't get into the master bedroom. There was a studio in each room. You couldn't get in the main studio unless you had something that was hot in the small studio. In the smaller studios. So within our first 3 years of production and teaching kids artist development, 3 kids got signed to Sony Records. They got their own television show on BET. They got their own reality show. It was a group called Fatty Coo.
These are Columbus.
These are Columbus, and they were on Sony Records.
Great.
And they had a song called Bounce in one of the movies. They got signed to Sony. And after that time, I went to Brazil. I had a girl group in Brazil and a whole bunch of other stuff. But to make a long story short, STARS stands for Striving to Achieve Real Success.
Great.
So our brand is STARS Worldwide, and we teach kids all about the music business. So our studios are free. They got audition. We teach everything, all artist development, recording, production, choreography. We got, as you see in the dance studio, this is one of our studios. Over the last 4 years, we've had kids on American Idol, Ellen DeGeneres, The Voice in Brazil, the Apollo. We just had a girl on America's Got Talent.
If somebody wanted to get in touch with you about your project, can you give your phone number, your email address, or the address of Columbus, where you are? Go ahead, please.
Okay, our phone number is 614-419-4624. Our Instagram is @StarsWorldwide. That's one word, Stars Worldwide. And our website is starsworldwide.org.
One more time, please.
Our website is Stars Worldwide. One word, stars with the S, worldwide.org. Our Instagram is @StarsWorldwide, and the number is 614-419-4624.
Wow. You have an incredible story, and I'm so proud to get an opportunity to speak with you, and I really, really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate you guys, man. So hi, bro.
Yeah. So, before we go, what is your thoughts about the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center in Dayton, Ohio? What's your thoughts?
Man, my thoughts is long overdue. I mean, I like I said, as we came up, man, you had the Ohio Players, the OJs, the Isley Brothers, play that funky music. White boys, they came out of Steubenville. A lot of people don't know that. My cousin Kirk Bishop played the first time here in Columbus. You got Kool and the Gang, you got Bootsy, you got Sun, you got, man, you got the Daz Band,
yeah.
Midnight Star, the Deal. I mean, come on.
We always say, oh, Dayton, Ohio is the funk capital of the world. Always say that, but we also
Lakeside,
yeah. We always say Ohio's the heart of it all for funk music, and that's no doubt.
Gotta say Slave.
Slave.
Gotta keep going. You know what I'm saying? Can't keep going. Gotta keep going.
Yeah, but we appreciate you. We appreciate it. This is David Webb, President and CEO of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center, on location with who?
Chris Powell.
Chris Powell, producer, writer, songwriter extraordinaire. Until next time, let's keep it funky.
Funky. Funk on.
Thank you.